The number one question I get when I'm working on design consultations is what fits in my space? And in this video, I will show you the techniques I use as well as the questions to ask to design outdoor spaces. The first one is to measure your space. To measure, the easy way and the most obvious is to take a tape measure and measure it, and it is the most accurate method, but you may not have a tape measure on you when you're trying to measure a space. And in this case, when I measure a space, I like to use my shoe as an example. So let me take off my shoe. If I step heel to toe, then I'll know approximately how big a space is. So if I measure my shoe is just a tad under a foot long. So now that I know that, I can just step heel to toe to know how big the space is. So here in San Francisco, I've got a really small yard. And I know that I have a limited amount of space for my sofa, so I'm gonna go do a foot in front of the foot to figure out how big the space is that I have to work with. So by going foot over foot, I figured out that I have about 12.5 feet. And for the depth of my space, I have 12 feet. So it's roughly a square, 12.5 feet wide by 12 feet deep. So now I know exactly what I have to work with, and I can go on to the next step of planning my configuration and what works. What you can do as you're planning this, which most people do, is they will either draw out the space with some chalk. They may use some painter's tape and block out exactly the size of the furniture that they're getting to visualize how much space it's going to take. The one drawback of using tape is once you have it taped down and you want to adjust it a little bit, you basically have to retape the whole thing again. One of the suggestions that I like to use is most people have a tarp of some sort in their home. The tarps are anywhere from 10 feet by 10 feet to 12 feet by 12 feet. I've taken my tarp and have folded it down to the exact size of the footprint of the sofa. I taped it down, and in doing so, you're able to move it around freely to figure out where it fits. To make your space look a little bit bigger, you want to make sure that you have a little bit of space where it's not backed up right against a wall. The space of it floating makes your space feel bigger. So I know that it fits there well. And I also know that I'm probably going to be doing some accent chairs. And I've gone ahead and measured out a footprint. It'll allow me to lay out, move around, configure, and give just a visual sense of what will work. So that's a really simple thing to do. And it helps with planning your space. And you know, the most important thing is that you actually do plan your space. You don't want to have your outdoor space feel cluttered or over furnished. Now that the planning part is done, you know how big your space is. You know the size of the furniture. And then there's the fun part, which is now being able to actually put them all in place. So I'm gonna start doing that. I know that I'm gonna be using a rug. I decided in my space, I didn't want too big of a rug, so I selected a 5x8 rug. I have my coffee table, I have my furniture, so I'm gonna go ahead and set it all up. When you're designing spaces, a lot of times you'll create a mood board, you'll think about all those things that you love. But remember this, you're creating this outdoor space to give you space. Space to think, space to breathe, space to move around. So be thoughtful about all those things that you may like, and then match it up to how big your space is. With my space, I know that I don't have as much space as I'd like, so I've been pretty prudent about the things that I think will fit. So just remember that. Don't go crazy. Start small, see how it feels, and you can build from there. Until next time, enjoy designing your space.